Big hello from Mexico. I'm creating this video to reply to Amy's thoughts and Chelsea's contribution regarding predetermined destiny or fate and whether we have free will or not. So there are a few concepts first we need to establish to bring some context to the experience that you're having so that your mind has a way of plugging into these ideas. The first idea is, well, it's not an idea, is that you have a higher self and a lower self. That systems have a higher self and lower self. From anything from politics has a higher self, even though you don't see it, to a lower self. The academia has a higher self to a lower self. And so we're going through this transition of overcoming our lower self to the higher self. And there is a conscious evolution and there's a hierarchy that's there. This hierarchy has always been around, and in it is the divine intelligence and the divine order, or some people call it the hidden order. So to be able to see the hidden order. So we can say the hidden order has always been that's the constant in terms of civilizations coming and going, in terms of our own soul experience from one incarnation to another as we bring forth this creation. So if there is a source that has a divine plan, then there must be beings that are helping to assist this creation, and there is a connection to the service of this creation that has already been chosen. We call that divine will or goodwill. And so, yes, do we have free will? From the point of the ego, we think we have free will, we think that we are self-determined creatures, that we can create whatever we like, and on some level that is true, but that's on the basis of the illusion. And if it's not in accordance with, say, the higher will, the will of God, then you really don't have free will, because it chooses, and we will create anything that we want to create, because that's our choice. But ultimately, that will get destroyed, that will get removed until we begin to create this divine plan, to execute it, to make manifest here on this planet. And that's why a lot of us are here now. I mean, there's 7 billion people here. I mean, there's 7 billion souls here who've had many lifetimes to arrive at this destination, to begin to overcome their lower self. And we see this happening. And is that our choice? Not really, it's the choice of God, it's the will of God. So our ultimate free will is the choice to choose from listening to the higher self, which is the instructions from the higher beings of this co-creation that we're creating. So, and again, we do have the choice to pick from the ego, and the ego is the separate self. It's the place where we feel afraid. So anytime we're afraid, it's the ego that's afraid. That's the structure that we kind of inhabit as our avatar. But ultimately, we also have this deep knowledge of the soul that is a lacking connection, lacking alignment, lacking instructions because of the systems that have been in place that kind of entraps the soul. Entraps the idea of who we really are, that we are eternal beings having many experiences in multi-dimensions. And you know, I'm very careful to say these words because it's one of those things that I don't want you to just accept, it's to experience. Otherwise, it's just philosophy and concepts. And ultimately that takes you nowhere. We can fool ourselves with concepts. So I can only talk about my own experiences, and you know, I saw deeply when I was on the medicine a while ago of my own death and the time of that death and what's happening, and the kind of instructions of the work that I'm here to do to facilitate that, let's say, departure from this avatar called Lazar Freeman. And 2 years later, and another prayer, it showed me that I can actually extend the lifetime if I do certain work and certain practices and a certain level of effort to take it to another direction, because it's accordance to the higher plan. It's in accordance to that instruction. It's not my instruction, it's not from my ego and what I want, right? It's from a place that's much more governing. which governs this universe, which governs life, which governs existence. So yes, we have a choice from a point of view of the level of consciousness we're playing at. So we're playing at this sphere of awareness, this sphere of influence. This is a level of consciousness, and our consciousness is like always kind of doing this, depending if we're feeling separate or we're feeling expansive. Yeah. And so every time, let's say, we liberate our traumas, or we clean out our memories, or we remove certain aspects that is determining our fate, we can say that karma that we've inherited or we've accumulated is blocking us from this intelligence to receive these instructions. So it's predetermining a particular destiny. So every time we're shifting ourselves, we're moving that destiny that's more accordance to the will of God. And they say when the will of man equals the will of God, divine providence happens. And we've experienced that in ourselves, where doors begin to be opened. And our choice to walk through the door is really our free will. We either can choose from the higher self, or we can choose from the lower separate self, or the ego that is there. So it's a practice. You know, we have. What I mean by practice is untraining ourselves from the old way of conditioning, the old way of being, the old way of perceiving what is real and what is not real, to see the divine truth in everybody and everything, to give peace to all beings on all planes. That's the direction at which spirit is taking the evolution of humanity. And humanity is deeply connected to divinity. Divinity rules. We think it's our self in terms of the small s, but the truth is there's a higher order, there's a hierarchy that's there. And so once we begin to learn to be deeply humble, so the energy of arrogance doesn't come in, like we know everything. Once we begin to see the world as much more sacred, once we begin to train ourselves to deeply listen, then the next step is to be of the new world of servers that are here on this planet to serve this divine plan. And it's the obedience of following through those instructions that is more tangible to you in your experiences of what you're here to experience, do, and learn, so that you can begin to gain that wisdom. And wisdom is true power. Knowledge isn't. Knowledge is the pretense of power. We can pretend to know a lot of things, but doesn't mean you have power. It's the illusion of power. While wisdom is the divine power, and all you're doing is being a service to this wisdom, carrying forth. And there is deep wisdom in every single one of you. Like, wow, very ancient, very, very ancient. And so we are here at this moment of continuously waking ourselves up. So let's just give, everyone has their challenges. Let's give thanks to our challenges. All those challenges are here to wake us up. Is, do you want to fulfill a particular fate that's predetermined from your stars, or do you want to overcome it to a different potential that also is part of your star system? Yeah, because there's a lower experience and there's a higher experience. So for those people who missed the last few talks, we need to ground ourselves. And grounding ourselves, I don't mean to the physical realm grounding, I mean to ground yourself to source. Every time we deeply pray or give thanks, we're grounding ourselves to source. So those roots, from an inverse perspective, is rooted to this hierarchy that exists, this benevolence force that we can begin to truly listen and take the right action, and able to let go and realize that we are one and interconnected in a very, I can't say it in any way, in a magical, mystical, divine, beautiful experience of life. And so there are, people think will is kind of this kind of like energy that comes forth here, because the solar plexus is here, and it's just like energy, and it's that kind of energy. It's more from your desires, and the desires could be that, you know, somebody hurt you and so you want to prove them wrong, or society did this and you want to prove society wrong, and and it has its place as part of the divine plan, but it's not divine will. That's just your will fighting whatever structure that is there. It's from a lower plane of existence. It's from the gross level as opposed to from the transcendental level. And so when Amy speaks about it's already started from the higher or the other multi-dimensional levels, because we live in a multiverse, and it starts to come down. Well, if we begin to bring our energy from the crown chakra, this is divine will, right? This divine will, we can personify it on some way we can understand it as like the Shiva energy. And Shiva is the energy of destruction. But it's not the destruction where you just go out and destroy things, because you can also destroy things from the ego. It's the energy of conscious, constructive destruction. It's eliminating the weak parts of ourselves that are binding, that are bondage, that are keeping us locked in a particular sphere. So our sphere is limited in terms of our awareness and our influence to be in accordance to the governance of what is happening that is there. So to turn this into a practical mysticism, it's also the study of one's charts that really helps to understand your destiny, because your destiny can be in different forms, but ultimately it is. So an example for myself, my Saturn, which is discipline, focus, attention, and as well as Jupiter, which is expansion, growth, and make things happen. Mars, which is like, it's this fiery war, this fight for things. All those three planets are in my fifth house. And the fifth house is of service and health. So that particular energy is already there. Now I can take this into health and fitness, or I can take this into yoga, or I can take this into spirituality. I can take all of that into whichever form I choose, depending on myself. From the space of health and fitness, that came from, let's say, the energy of the ego and what I was surrounded by, the conditionings of the world, and that's all I saw. That was the framework. And I started doing meditations and practices. I saw something far different, but the fuel is there, the life force. So we can say that's already predetermined. What we choose, the form is our choice. And that form can be chosen from the lower self or the higher self. But the predetermination is already there. So for myself to be a biochemical engineer, it just wouldn't work. Like things would just continuously break down and not work out, and I'll end up being deeply depressed because it's not within my own logos, let's just say. And so all of you have this particular ray of energy, which you call it from your soul, which you came from a particular ashram, that's governing your higher self, and then we have kind of like another ray of the personality that is shown to the world. So the answer to your questions is there predetermination? Yes and no. It's called the divine paradox. It is from the place of there isn't in the place of the ego, but there is from the place of the higher self, which is ultimately your connection to the divine will. And will is to make manifest that experience that is in our dream, the dream that's been created from source, to pick up, to tune in, to turn on, and bring it forth. And if you don't do it, then maybe another individual will end up doing it, because that has already been chosen, that has already been assigned. The assignment is given to those people who are awake enough to receive it and have the physical capacity, the mental fortitude, the intellectual understanding to understand how to make it happen. So at the beginning, all of us first develops our intellectual capacities, how to navigate the material world. And at some point we need to let go of the material understanding and work from the above. And then from that space, we need to bring this down back to all that training that we had, all the trainings of Chelsea, the speaking, the mentoring group, the this. You're bringing all this back into what you've already learned. So we're not ever disowning our past. We are letting go of the past, but we're not disowning the teachings and the qualities and the skills and the competencies that we've garnered. So there's something very valuable and beautiful. The question is now is bringing forth this divine plan with these skill sets, because now you're trained to be able to see it through. Hence why people wake up at different times, or let's say get it activated at different times. This is not your choice. And if you're a certain being with a certain hierarchy level, then you're going to have these like potential sudden awakenings. And it doesn't mean that you take any action. It means, are you willing to accept it, be humble enough to find, let's say, the people in the material world to help you, assist you on that direction, because we are fighting. I wouldn't say fighting, but there is an inertia of the past. There is the inertia of the attachments of, you know, our old friends, the old way of working, the old system. There's all this attachment, so it's very difficult for an individual to pierce through this energy without, let's say, the help of a community, the help of wise elders and teachers, the help of the various practices, because at some point some practices are great for a period of time and then we need to let it go to move on to the next level. So there's a continuous evolution in the way we choose. And the way we choose is either we choose from the separate egoic self, or we choose from the divine self. From the separate egoic self, there's no choice. We think it's a choice, but ultimately some level of suffering will happen at some point to bring us back, whether it is a loss of money, loss of a family member, loss of health, loss of something, whatever it is. All that is to direct us back. So Buddha said life is suffering, and I thought about this a lot. So there must be some utility to suffering. There must be some purpose to suffering. There must be some sort of ammunition. There must be some sort of fuel that came from this suffering. And so once we understand that it's there and it's great, from the soul never really suffers, but from the personality it does, then the utility of suffering is to go back to consciousness, back to oneness, to go beyond our own ego. So when we feel despair or dismay, or we are trying to manipulate, or we're trying to overcome or be possessive, just know that's the ego. And it's okay, it's there. But to realize, no, I'm not beginning to operate from that place anymore. I've had my experience, thank you very much, Sat Nam. I'm going to pick something else. And that something else has already been picking is that word, is already chosen from the divine plan, the hidden order, the hierarchy of consciousness. It's just a hierarchy of consciousness. There's the individual consciousness, there's the consciousness between us as a group, there is the family consciousness, there's the collective consciousness, there's the planetary consciousness, there's the cosmic consciousness, there's the consciousness of the cosmos. So there's all this consciousness. All of those things are evolving and growing. So there is only one true will, and that's the divine will. And the choice that we have is either we choose the divine will, or we choose from the lower will. And the lower will is the illusionary will, that we think we've made a choice, which would always lead us back to the other. And that could affect our limited time in this particular incarnation for the growth of you as a soul. So this understanding can save you a lot of wasted energy in this incarnation, because we're all going to come back and do this practice again in a different form, where maybe this time around there's artificial intelligence running the earth, and there's, who knows, whatever's going to happen in the next 100, 200, 300, 2,000 years. But ultimately, all our purposes, every soul's purpose, is to liberate themselves and realize deeply on a very experiential level, on a place of self-realization, realizing the true self. So that's my thoughts. I hope it was useful. Sending you lots of love from Mexico.